Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? Thanks for coming out. The topic of this panel is gaining users. And how many people are here to gain more users on their mobile app? Great, perfect. Come to the right place. Definitely be thinking of questions as we go through this panel. And let's get to it. Go ahead, introduce yourself and your company.
Sure. Hey everyone, can you all hear me okay? Cool. My name is Billy Shipp. I work for a company called Iddiction. I run growth for the company, so broadly sales and marketing. We have a couple different platforms that focus on app distribution and discovery, and it's great to see you all.
Hello, my name is Gluck. I work for a company called TrialPay. And I head up our user acquisition at TrialPay. So what we do as a company is basically the leading cross-platform monetization partner. And so we also help with user acquisition for our partners, so driving both rewarded as well as non-rewarded acquisition for developers.
Hi, I'm Mark Epes. I am the Director of Sales and Partnerships at Papaya Mobile, also known as AppFlood, which are our new product set today. I work with publishers and advertisers directly, kind of bridging that gap, focusing a lot on user acquisition and performance.
Great, and I'm Beth Kindig with Vserv.mobi. I'm the Manager of Developer Relations. We are leading ad exchange in emerging markets such as Southeast Asia, Africa, Middle East, LATAM. I've also developed 2 apps, Android and iOS, and I run a very active blog with over 300 contributors. The most contributors actually in technology. So let's get going, guys. Pre-launch, chronologically speaking, what should a developer think of?
In terms of getting more users and like how to set things up?
Let's say 6 months before you launch your app. What should you be thinking of?
So you should be thinking about like who your app is for. Like what is the target audience? What's the expected outcome? What's the goal with the application? And then how are you going to reach those users? So there are kind of 2 things, right, around the product is like the functionality and then who that functionality is for. And thinking through that story and that messaging is going to help you when you actually get to launch to execute on that plan.
Yeah, and with acquisition specifically, I mean, it's important to get started as soon as possible with things like analytics. So knowing what sort of platform you're gonna have so you can track these metrics, as well as understanding what your success is going to be measured based on. So what metrics are most important to you, and how you're actually going to track those specifically.
Besides what these gentlemen just mentioned, I believe that obviously these developers are looking for how do I monetize my app. And a good way to do that is to make sure you know how to do that prior to going live. You don't want to change your app after you're already live, so you should have an idea if you're going to be focusing on IAP, if you're going to be doing a subscription, or if you're going to be doing it free with some sort of advertising. That's kind of stuff you need to know prior to going live, and that'll kind of help you as you continue to grow.
Okay, great. So you're saying know the audience, you're saying track, and you're saying think about monetization before you launch. Okay, so now we've launched our app, and nothing happened. We got 1,000 downloads, maybe 5,000 downloads. We got this from our Facebook following. What does this developer do now?
So there are a bunch of things you can do, right? Like you can quit, or you can you can say, okay, what did I miss at the beginning, right? Like what questions didn't I ask from the get-go? Like, am I solving a real problem, like something that people actually need and care about? And if I am, then am I getting in front of that audience where like I'm actually solving that problem for them so that they know that there's this solution or this thing that entertains them, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, like making sure that you're doing that thing and you're getting in front of the audience that cares about that. If you're doing those 2 things, then you'll win. You won't have 1,000 downloads.
Yeah, and I think it's extremely important to know the type of channels that you're actually trying to acquire users from. So the more that you can understand before actually launching with a partner, the better off you'll be, because it's key to make sure that that partner is going to be the right partner to drive that particular type of traffic. And if you find that traffic's not working, then you move on to another partner, or better off yet, start with a bunch of different type of partners to start off with, so that you can analyze the specific channels that are going to drive the highest quality users for you.
I forgot to mention in the first part that I think every app developer should always have their second app ready to go. Don't always put all your eggs in one basket. It's always good to have more apps down the pipeline because that's what's going to continue to grow. But in addition to that, developing alliances with other developers. I think that's a great way, know other developers that are in your market, your vertical, develop alliances with them. Obviously they have users, they might not have as many, but develop those alliances and maybe do some cross-promotion. That's something that's simple that my company, Papaya, in China started. They started a very large cross-promotion network, and that grew a lot of organic downloads. And that's a cheap way to do it, and it's a very, easy way to go with other people.
And you can also take a look at where those competitors are advertising as well. So obviously they'll probably be in a similar demographic such as yourself, so doing that research and looking into those channels that your competitors are driving acquisition through can be pretty powerful for your type of users as well.
Great, we definitely want to talk about cross-promotion again. First I wanted to read this quote and get your response on it. This is about the App Store. It's by Chris DeVore. Blaming the app stores for poor discoverability is a little like blaming Google for not putting your site on the first page of results. Getting found is the responsibility of the publisher. So the App Store is for users, right? It's not really for developers. And I think what this quote brings up is the responsibility of the publisher and the developer. And it also brings up some of the search engine optimization marketing schemes we saw when people wanted to rank high on that first page. So how does a developer avoid those marketing schemes, and how do they rank high on the App Store?
Avoiding marketing schemes in the App Store in terms of ranking high, I don't know that, that is kind of the same
Featured
thing,
apps.
right?
Featured apps, there's a lot of those out there. App of the day, featured apps, and there's so many of them. And do they produce results?
I think in terms of downloads, they often do. It is very akin to, search engine optimization and figuring out what keywords and what backlinks you can get, right? I see a lot of developers actually who are really successful with this at stuffing keywords into their applications, at leveraging, trends in the App Store, like the flood of 2048 clones, the flood of Flappy Bird clones. You see it all the time, right? There's a successful genre, a bunch of people clone it, that works. When there's attention on something, if you build something along those lines, that works. So, if your goal is growth and just having a mass consumer product, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It depends on what the goal is of the company and that app and the market.
Sure, Flappy Bird. Let's talk about the people who have 10,000, 50,000 downloads, and what is the best way to rank high on the App Store, even just by another 100 or 200 on the ranking?
Yeah, I think keywords can definitely be pretty important with regards to actual ranking. Obviously, if the rank is most important to you, if it's more of a volume play, there are plenty of partners who can get you to the top of the App Store. There are incentivized partners who can get you there, but it's extremely important to make sure that those are the metrics that are most important to you. So we have plenty of partners who come to us saying, all I want to do is be a third on the App Store. And then once you go through a campaign with them, they realize that maybe I should be focused a little bit more on the quality and the ROI of that particular user. So before you start these campaigns, you should be 100% sure exactly what type of user you want from these partners.
Going along with what Brendan said, obviously you can do these burst campaigns which get you higher rankings, but now the goal normally is, I want to get higher rankings because then that'll drive more organic traffic. Is that going to work? How can you sustain that? I think that's where the publishers need to look at, hey, there's plenty of people out here that can get you to that top, but then how do you stay there? I think that's where you as a publisher need to know, I'm going to get these users, but now how do I keep them? Do I make sure that they're engaged? Do I get more DAUs? But then, are they turning into monthly actives? Or, that's where you really need to measure your quality. And I think every publisher measures their quality differently. So it's really kind of publisher by publisher based.
Okay, great. So we did touch on burst campaigns, which prove how difficult and costly it can be to gain mindshare on the App Store. What other user acquisition tools should a smaller developer be considering?
So I think they mentioned cross-promotion before. I think that's a great strategy. I think leveraging things like virality, so trying to attach yourself to existing trends that are going on to drive discoverability, I think that's a really good thing. You know, looking at whatever's happening in popular culture and drafting off that virality and getting people to then share content related to you or discover you through social channels can be really, really effective. I think those are some of the, and then obviously like press, PR, things like that. You know, trying to get people with large audiences to talk about you is a kind of a key way of kind of bootstrapping growth.
Yeah, and I'd say within the user acquisition, I mean, there are a bunch of channels that you guys can use to actually acquire users. I mean, in addition to the incentivized space, the reward-based space, what's become really popular are the app trailers. So a incentivized video view with a non-incentivized install, and non-incentivized tends to be really high quality, and there are a lot of partners that can provide high volume as well. So I mean, there are a lot of options to get high quality users, some of which are going to be expensive, like going through Facebook potentially, but you're also going to get a very high quality user who is extremely targeted to whatever your specific demographic is going to be.
I've seen some publishers kind of work on second and third tier markets first. Kind of, you know, they're more tend to be cheaper markets to get into. So staying away from the tier ones, the US, Canada, UK, all the English speaking. Kind of target other markets where you can really kind of learn, especially if you're a new developer. It's kind of learning the game. Don't get into the game where you know you're targeting the most highest tier market out there. Get to where there's a lot of users where you might build credibility, and then that'll help you organically and then grow from there.
Okay, do you want to talk about China, Mike?
Sure, I can easily talk about China. So my company is based in Beijing. Obviously there's 1.3 billion people in Beijing, roughly 700 million smartphones in China. So it's a huge market right now. Not a lot of people know what to do with that market because it's kind of an untapped area. And you know, we've recently launched our first global RTB platform ad exchange in China. We are the first to do so. So we're really helping a lot of developers make and monetize the traffic that they have, and then also, you know, helping them with getting supply on the advertiser side. So it's something that's huge that's happening. APAC is a country that, you know, has a, you know, is a region that is just growing tremendously. And I think it hasn't really been looked at as much as, you know, obviously North America and other English-speaking markets that I mentioned earlier. So it's going to be growing tremendously. And that's, like I said, it's a much less expensive than trying to target the main markets right now.
Sure, and I can second that. My company headquartered in Dubai. India is expected to add 200 million smartphones to the market this year, so it'll be at 300 million, which is basically one entire United States in one short year. So phenomenal growth there. Billy, let's go back to you. I definitely want to slow down again on the cross-promotion network. I think that that's one of the biggest new trends with bootstrapping, user acquisition. So can you describe how somebody can do that at no cost?
Sure. So I don't know if this is a new trend. I think it's been in media for a long time. But I think the tools around mobile cross-promotion are getting more sophisticated now, particularly at the entry point of free. So it took a while for, like, if I think of us as kind of being in like at least the second wave of smartphone, possibly the third, but in that first kind of wave of smartphone, when the App Store had really just launched, when the iPhone was really like a new phenomenon, these tools didn't exist. So if you wanted to cross-promote effectively with other developers, you pretty much had to build it. And then, you know, some first-generation tools started to come out. So what you'll see with folks that power things like banners or interstitials, so companies like Chartboost or Playhaven that do a great job providing, you know, basic technologies that were existent on the web and moving them over into mobile, where you can have, you know, an image that shows up for someone and they tap on it and they go to a different application and they give that away for free. So that level of cross-promotion is pretty useful. But now what you're seeing is this next wave that's even more sophisticated, where you actually have a native UI. So a user experience, an interface that's customizable, that optimizes in real time, that provides you in-depth analytics around who the user is that's looking at the cross-promotion experience, and then which recommendations that they should be getting in terms of other apps that they might be interested in, and driving really high conversions in terms of installs from that. So leveraging these technologies that are now out for free, like our company powers one, you can use them and create a network with other folks. So you can find other app developers, and we'll facilitate this, right, that have some traffic. So if you have 1,000 users, 10,000 users, 100,000 users, it doesn't matter. We'll help pair you up with someone who has a similar audience and a similar scale, and we'll enable you to trade traffic between each other for free. And this is a way of, it's a classic kind of network effect type of story, right? Like, it's why social networks work, it's why the rich get richer. Like, anytime you have an asset, if you can find other complementary assets and bundle those together, the network effect, the volume, the scale there, the value gets increased.
Okay, great. And Billy, your founder, the Talking Friends series, 300 million installs over the course of a year, 1.5 billion installs total. You had told me before the panel that your founder went through a crux with the distribution. Can you describe how he overcame that?
Absolutely. It was through building this kind of first generation tool for cross promotion. So the gentleman who founded Iddiction, his name's Andre Nabergoy. He was originally the founding CEO of a company called Outfit 7. Outfit 7 built Talking Tom and the Talking Friends series of apps. So when he joined the company, they had just launched Talking Tom, and they got some traction with it. They ended up gaining a few million installs from that first app. But they knew that wasn't enough, that they were going to need to continue growing the company and launching new applications. And so every time they launched a new app, they had this challenge of how do we get users from this first app to the next one. So they built some basic tools around that. Basic cross-promotion, an image that says, hey, there's a new app, tap on this, goes to the App Store, and you can download that app. But then once they had 2 or 3 or 4 different apps, cross-promoting between those became challenging. Like, what if someone already has one of these other apps? I shouldn't show them the ad for that app. Oh, so now I need some intelligence around which apps to show them based on what they already have or don't have. And so he started building this platform there. And he realized that this wasn't a problem just for him, that it was going to be a problem for the industry as a whole. And so that's why he started Iddiction. And so that's the tool that we've built that we give away for free to developers, is this intelligence layer where you can know which apps users have on their device, which apps that you have that they don't have, and recommend the right apps to them. And so he was able to grow the Outfit 7 portfolio from a few million installs to over 300 million installs in the course of a year, primarily using this internal cross-promotion tool. And so that's what we're trying to enable, because we see this kind of pay-to-win situation, this consolidation happening in the mobile space. We don't think it's good for the ecosystem. Having $1 billion flow into Facebook's pocket for app installs in the last quarter, that doesn't help you. That's all money that's flowing out of your pockets into Mark Zuckerberg's pocket. What you need is a system of banding together where you can push users around, where you can help users discover great apps that enables the ecosystem to thrive and to grow, and not just make someone at the top a lot more money. So that's what we're trying to build.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you for that. And Brendan, I'm going to get to you in just a minute as we go down the conversion funnel. But first, while we're at the top of the funnel, Mike, is there anything else you would recommend for a mobile developer to gain users?
To what the point was earlier, I think I can say firsthand from Papaya Mobile, we started about 5.5 years ago as a small developer in China developing games. And we only succeeded because of cross-promotion. We started teaming up with other developers in China, opening up an incubator in China where we had multiple developers coming in and then doing just straight cross-promotion. We didn't have the tools that Addictive had. Their growth in 1 year is more than we've had in 5. You know what I mean? That just shows, but we did grow tremendously through cross-promotion. Just wanted to kind of validate that point, is that's huge to do. But then getting back to, on a small budget, it's really, I have to stress again, cross-promotion, because, that's where you team up with other alliances and really grow. It's, in this market that we have today, it's tough to grow on a really small budget. It really is. I'm not going to lie to you. There's no secret behind the fact. Developers, a lot of these main guys that are making headway now, they're spending a lot of money, and they're doing it that way. A lot of these developers, there's one, Angry Birds and 10 million out there, so it's not really going to happen. So don't count on that as happening, but then team up with other developers, and then have a united front is kind of what I would go with on there, and then you can really probably grow that way. It's not a guaranteed means of success, but it's definitely somewhere to start.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad we spent a lot of time on cross-promotion because I think that's a huge takeaway for the audience. Brendan, conversion funnel, I have a bunch of users, how do I retain them?
Yeah, I mean, I think to start off with, at the end of the day, you're trying to find high-quality users. Cross-promotion is a great way to find those quickly, but there are additional channels such as Facebook, even if you don't like paying Mark Zuckerberg directly, that you can access users who you wouldn't find otherwise. And at the end of the day, that's what everyone is trying to find, that high-quality user that you wouldn't have been able to secure from organic growth. So I think it's important to focus on the channels that, in addition to cross-promotion, you can find users who might not be in the gaming realm specifically. So this could be, other apps that are non-gaming. This could be finding users from web who are already gamers to begin with on the Facebook platform, on an external gaming standalone site. There are additional channels that users can provide high-quality traffic to outside of cross-promotion as well. So I think the key to the entire story and how to find that engaged user is to test different channels. You should never be siloed into one specific area. You should be looking at cross-promotion, you should be looking at new user acquisition, and finding what the right group of users are for you. And the key to that is knowing the metrics that you guys are focused on. So is it engagement? Is it I only want paid users? And whatever those specific goals are, that is going to be highly dependent on which traffic sources or which types of campaigns are going to work best for you. And there's obviously an important way to understand that beforehand, but a lot of this is just going to be testing and figuring out where those channels are that you can find that are going to provide those high quality users. And for the actual retention and engagement, a lot of this is obviously going to be down to the actual game mechanics that you have, but there are also a lot of additional ways that you can make sure that user who comes through is going to be highly engaged. This can be things like virality, having a Facebook page where users can share photos that they have or video content that they can share to their friends. Adding discussions around the gameplay, releasing new features to users. That community aspect is something that can take your game from users aren't interested to this is a hugely successful game where people are going to come back on a daily basis, spend money, and really interact with the game as a whole.
Okay, great. And Brendan, I think what a lot of people want to avoid is a revenue bubble, right? Where, let's say you have 5,000, 10,000, your shoestring budget, you've used that to acquire users, and those users never monetize. Yep. So how would you avoid that? What are just a few, one or two takeaways to avoid that happening?
So I think first and foremost, it's understanding and getting to know the partner or the channel that you're trying to promote your app in. So you should be having a conversation with your contact at a particular user acquisition partner and understanding where they're coming from. You want to tell them your goals, but you also want to know what they're going to do to make sure that you're able to achieve those goals. So things like making sure they're not going to rebroker your deals. Are there specific minimum thresholds with regards to pricing or volume that they require? Some of these are how much transparency they're going to provide you with. A lot of these can be red flags that if they're not providing that information to you, maybe you should go elsewhere if those align or don't align with your specific goals. And there are tons of partners who will be able to be a good partner for you and make sure that the ROI that you're seeing is positive and that you're optimizing campaigns with creative to make sure that high quality users are coming through. So I think it's really important to kind of understand who that partner is and how they're going to help you to achieve the goals that you need to lay out to them point blank. So that's really the most important way to make sure that that's going to be a high quality partner for you specifically.
Okay, thanks. And speaking of partners, these big social media giants that are entering the app install ad picture, Facebook is expected to have a pretty big announcement next week. We saw Twitter acquire MoPub. What's going on there, and what should a developer know about the landscape here?
I think it's positive to have more of these large-scale partners that can provide highly targeted traffic. The issue is the price is still pretty high to acquire users. So take it with a grain of salt that once you have the necessary budget to go through a Facebook, a Twitter, etc., it can be an extremely important and profitable channel. All the big developers that we work with are probably doing 25% of their spend through the likes of Facebook because it's so highly targeted, because they can get the exact type of user who is going to be a high quality paying user for them. So understand that it is a great channel if you can succeed in it and have the necessary budget for it, but that at an early stage it's going to be tough to compete with the likes of Zynga, of Supercell, etc., who are well established in the area, who are paying very high rates for those consumers. So it's something that you need to take at what it is, a high quality channel, but also a high price channel.
What do the cross-promotion guys think about that, Billy and Mike?
I mean, anytime you spend on user acquisition, it's going to cost you money, right? Like, that's the bottom line. That's what it means to spend on user acquisition, is you pay money to someone else for access to their audience. Like, what's happening with Facebook and Twitter and Google, is they've acquired large audiences on mobile, and they're selling access to those audiences. And that's fine if the economics of your business are such that you can acquire users at a profitable rate. Like, going through those channels can work really, really well. Usually that's not the case. The majority of apps are not in that situation where the LTV of the users that they acquire exceeds the cost of that acquisition. So if that's not true for you, then you need other ways of growing. That may be one of the tools in the toolkit. You may want to do a little bit of paid acquisition to get you some targeted high-value users, but you may also want to do things like cross-promotion, or really work on your virality, or work on your PR pitch, or try and attach yourself to some media trend or some personality who can get you free exposure. There are lots of different ways to grow. Paid acquisition is just one strategy, and it's usually not the best one for a small developer.
So I think, the crux of this here is, as a developer, is getting to know your user and getting to know and getting as much data as you can, and that's working with people that can give you the analytics, and that's you asking the right questions and learning about your users. And then once you know what your quote-unquote good users are, then you can go to these higher channels like the Facebooks, like the MoPubs, and then you can target those types of users. But you have to get to that point first. And I encourage a lot of A/B testing. There's many different people out there. Don't put all your money with one person. Split it up, and then work with different people. But it's always about getting the data and learning your users. And then once you know who your valued users are, then you use the bigger channels that are more expensive. But you know that will be profitable for you in the end.
Okay, great, thank you. Just want to turn to the audience now. Does anybody have any questions for the panelists? Yes.
Billy, you had talked about how these clone competitors will immediately arise. How do you prepare for that? What do you do? Because that's going to immediately sap a huge potential user base away from you. Or how do you continue to attract and retain users when all these competitors suddenly just come out of nowhere?
Sure. So I think it's being differentiated and making it hard to duplicate from the get-go. So if you look at companies like Supercell, I think they've done a great job differentiating themselves. But even if you look at something like Flappy Bird, right? Like, until they took that thing out of the store, like, it was still going to be the best of its kind because it was the first. So there's value in being first, and then there's value in your particular implementation. Usually the clones aren't going to be as good as you, and yeah, they'll cut away at some of your audience. But if you've done a great job building a high-quality application and you're reaching the right folks, it won't matter, right? People will prefer your product to others. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. If someone clones you and has a better product, you're going to lose. Like, that can happen too. But if you're the best at what you do and you're really focused on that, and you reach out to that right audience that gets value from your product, you'll win.
Thank you.
Checkered shirt?
Yeah, this is for Mark. You mentioned you guys are based in China, and you guys glanced over the approaching for indie developers to approach the China market. So as you well know, there's no Google Play Store there. So there's these 200 stores. Even if you tackle the top 10%, you have to manage 15, 20 different APKs, one-to-one relationship stores. What's the best way? So for an indie dev, that's not really, you can't really do that, right? You've got to be able to have a team to do that. So what's the best way to really start for an indie dev at a real small scale in China?
Sign up on our ad exchange. I would, that's a really great question, and I don't think there's no real answer yet. I think we're still tackling that. We're fortunate to be based there and have the relations with all those other stores that we're kind of in, so not a lot of people are. But that's been, like you said, it's huge. There's so many markets out there, and it's hard to do. But it's, obviously there are the big ones out there that will carry a bulk of the traffic. You know, it's still, the 80-20 rule still applies in China and there. So I would say that's kind of where you'd want to start, and then work with companies like ours that are really doing that for you as a indie developer.
Can I jump on that real quick? So, you know, from a lot of indie developers that I talk to who have success in other markets who are interested in tackling the Chinese market, it makes a lot of sense for them to partner with someone, to partner with a publisher or a trusted source like there locally that has a lot of distribution, can bring things like localization to the table, because a lot of that stuff is challenging, and as an independent developer you typically don't have resources to bite off more than one market, or at least one language.
Okay, over here in the vest. Stand up.
Okay,
Thank you.
so my name is Alexander Borra. I'm a medical doctor. I have an app which is in the healthcare space where you can take a picture of your skin, you can send it to our doctors. Our problem is that we get downloads, but when they send in, that's when they pay the $40. And also we have a problem that skin problems is nothing new that you have every single day. You guys been talking more about games and things like that, which is a no-brainer in that sense, right? But what would you recommend? What would you recommend where you have to download it, have it on your phone, and then actually use it and actually pay for something?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the trends that we've been seeing is this more of an engagement as opposed to a pay per install, and I think it's a great way to have a higher quality user from you know, a user who's just going to install and maybe not engage anymore to one who is actually playing your game, reaching level 2, etc. And I think the same applies for non-gaming as well. So obviously the most important thing is finding that delicate balance between pushing the user too far into the funnel and limiting volume. But if you're able to find these partners who will have more of a engagement type of campaign, that's a great way to force users to engage a little bit more than they would have otherwise.
I think to further the engagement is possibly offer a light version where a user can use your app, say, once or twice for a minimal fee or no fee to just get them in, like I said, get them in the funnel, get them liking what they're doing, and then you get them up later.
Did that answer your question? Is that good, or do you have a follow-up on that?
Yeah, I have a follow-up.
Okay.
So, I mean, healthcare is a little bit like this, that you don't want cheap healthcare, right? Because if you get cheap healthcare, it's not very good. We tried, for example, to give it out for free or give it out for $5. The quality of the images and the text coming in is really bad. So the doctor, it also give a really bad answer. However, when we put it out for $40, we get really good quality pictures, really good text, and also the dermatologists give really good answers, which there is a possibility that they will tell their friends about this ad, right?
It's a delicate balance. I mean, you're going to have to find that middle ground between getting the volume that you want and getting the amount of users you want, and the quality of the content as well.
I would also suggest there are ways to device target, and you can target your app only on certain devices that have megapixels that are, you know, good enough for quality photos, and you can do that with different providers out there saying I only want these type of devices or better, and then that could be a simple solution to the quality image.
And it sounds like you have a very particular audience that you're after. So one of the things Google recently rolled out, you know, to go back to one of these big sources, because of your particular example, Google recently rolled out app install ads for mobile search. So when people are actually on their devices searching for, hey, skin condition, whatever it is, you can be that sponsored result at the top there to drive them to your application and say, hey, you can get a skin exam on the go with, get a response in 30 minutes or 90 minutes or however long it takes, and $39 or whatever it is. And then I think you'll get really high quality users through that channel. I think there are probably other health-related applications that you could potentially advertise in or cross-promote with. They're all like the big online health portals also have applications. They typically don't sell advertising, but for someone like you, they might.
We actually launched Vserv.mobi search intent ads, and healthcare apps are huge in India, so. Let's see, we have one here, and then I want to make sure I'm not ignoring anyone over here. Let's go with you in the purple. Go ahead.
Do you have any advice for marketplace apps? I need both the consumers and the vendors on it. Chicken and the egg problem.
Repeat that question.
Can you repeat that?